baseball trade deadline is upon us. It seems so long ago that this season was almost in question, and yet here we are with guys like Juan Soto and Shohei Ohtani, even Wilson Contreras, being shopped around. But first, let's get to this. The Yankees and the Astros made some pretty big deals. The Padres also got a good deal as well because they got Josh Hader. Remember that racist guy from Twitter? Well, he's a pretty good closer nowadays. Also,
he was back then too.
Right. Trey Mancini to the Astros. And I believe the Yankees added 2 guys. I forgot who it was, though. But hey, the contenders get richer, and we're just looking. Baseball's getting hot right now.
Yeah, as far as the Yankees goes, they added God, the names are escaping me right now, but they added the number 2 starter from Oakland, who's actually looked relatively decent this year, and the setup guy for Chicago.
And Trevino.
Yeah, Montez and Trevino from the Athletics. And then they ended up adding a guy, Scott Efris, I think, from the Cubs.
Wow.
And, of course, you have the Benintendi trade as well. So it seems like the Yankees are just kind of tying up some loose ends here. We already know they were a World Series favorite, if not, definitely a contender to be there this October. But, yeah, I mean, the Josh Hader trade really shocked everybody. And I saw on Twitter that, they had to basically issue an explanation as to why they made this trade. And if you're having to explain why you traded your star closer, maybe it wasn't the best deal. But it seemed like they got 3 MLB-ready players, including 2 starting pitchers. So I don't hate this. It seemed like Devin Williams was ready to take that closer role, and Josh Hader was ready to get paid. And San Diego can definitely use an arm. I'm curious if this will come back to bite Milwaukee in the playoffs should San Diego be there. Milwaukee looks like they're, on that course to be there. They are leading the Central. But right. I am a little curious at the Josh Hader trade. And was there something that, just wasn't clicking with the organization? Everything seemed to be okay. They got through the racist past tweets. They got through that saga. Everything seemed unharmed. But, San Diego's getting a real quality pitcher out here, and that's probably what they're going to need to shut the door and get into the playoffs. They're not winning the West. We know that. No one's winning the West. It's not named the Dodgers. They're like 12 or 13 games ahead
12, yeah.
of the rest of the West here. But, yeah, I mean, with the Yankees and acquiring those arms and Benintendi, and San Diego getting a nice pitcher. We're starting to see the haves and have-nots. And not to throw this, but Chaim Bloom sold off a little bit, but acquired Tommy Pham, which is such a weird acquisition for the Red Sox, who seem to be sellers by trading off Christian Vazquez to the Astros. Again, the Astros, another team who got better. We'll talk about that in just a second here. But the Red Sox can't seem to figure out what they want to be, buyers or sellers. So today's going to be a big day for them. But you mentioned Trey Mancini, who should have won the ESPY for Comeback Player of the Year.
Bingo!
And him going to a contender with that bat is going to just be nothing but positive for the Astros. So as much as we think that the Yankees definitely just tied up some loose ends, not necessarily got miles better, the Astros might have gotten significantly better yesterday with acquiring Trey Mancini and Christian Vazquez.
I guarantee you that right now, because I believe the Padres are going to match up with the Dodgers well. I mean, when push comes to shove, if there's an Astros to the Dodgers, it's the Padres. And I feel
in terms of what? What do you mean, like competitive?
Like the Yankees have the Astros on their tails in terms of teams that can beat them. I feel the Dodgers should have to worry about a division rival who did just acquire Josh Hader from a team that was already contending itself. I believe the Padres are. I'm for a betting aspect. Padres and Astros might be a surprise World Series matchup that we never saw coming, but probably should have seen coming.
So you believe in the NL that the only team that can really challenge the Dodgers this year is the Padres? So you're out on the Mets, the Braves, the Cardinals, the Brewers. You're out on those teams.
Mets are just, and the Mets have moved up in my top 5. Low-key spoiler there. But the Mets are just like They're the Mets still, and they will always be the Mets. And I know that I'm not a big proponent of once, always, is always now. I'm not a big proponent of that, but yes, if it's your division rival, that team knows you better than the other teams, and they know how to beat you.
I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree that in a 7-game series, San Diego could steal a series from the Dodgers. I don't disagree with that. I'm 100% on board. It's funny to me, though, because maybe not even a month ago when I came back, you were, rah-rah Mets. So I'm just curious what changed. I mean, they're getting DeGrom back. They're still, only really 4 games back of the Dodgers here. They have a really good split record. I'm just curious.
No, I think Mets are contenders, but I would be scared to death if I'm the Dodgers if the Padres have to come knocking on my door. I'd be scared.
That's fair.
12-game lead or 2-game lead?
As much as I loved the Brewers all year, I'm curious about this trade. I'm curious if something's going to come out later on in this season that either looks bad for the Brewers, Hader, or both. Because, I mean, a National League a division-leading team doesn't just trade their closer out of the blue. I understand they got a pretty good haul, but they didn't really get a star back. I mean, Dinelson Lamet is probably the best piece, and he's a middling starter. I mean, if they need starting pitching help, that's fine. Like I said, there had to be something here with Devin Williams, who, if you haven't watched Devin Williams play baseball or pitch, he is lights out. He hasn't given up a run in like 3 months. But I mean, that can be handled in the offseason.
But here's the thing, though, Aaron. If you can get a haul knowing that Josh Hader wants to get paid, what if they don't want to pay Josh Hader? What if
I don't think they do?
But that's what I'm saying. So they see a Devin Williams guy, they get a haul. Maybe the Padres are wanting to win now. Obviously, they could care less what happens to Hader in the offseason. Maybe the Brewers are setting themselves up financially to get even better next year by not paying this dude.
Well, I don't think they were going to pay him anyways, but I thought they'd finish out the season with the combo of Williams and Hader. I mean, San Diego, maybe not, but San Diego is also sending their closer back, Taylor Rogers. So I'm assuming he goes into a setup role or he goes into, a middle reliever role. So it's just a curious. I mean, they did definitely get a good haul back. I'm probably higher on Dinelson Lamet than some others. I think he's a decent right-hander.
Never heard of him.
But I mean, the other thing is that like Hader's been okay this year. He was an all-star. He definitely has the strikeout pitch working for him, but he also did have a 4.24 ERA this year. So, I mean, maybe they knew something. Maybe they knew something we didn't, and like you said, they don't want to pay him the $20 million that he probably is going to try. And I mean, he's making $11 million this year. His final year of his arbitration deal takes him to $16 million. Then after next year, he's a free agent. So, I mean, I'm not going to say they don't know what they're doing. It's just a little bit of a shocker. That's all I'll say with it.
I love how you bring up the contract stuff to fill time. Let's go to the next trade deadline part of this. I'm so mean to him. Juan Soto, Shohei Ohtani, Wilson Contreras. Do any of these guys get moved? Do all of them get moved? I know after what Juan Soto said yesterday, he hits a home run in what could be his finale. And then he says something like, I'm just waiting. You're going to be waiting a long time, Juan Soto.
Yeah, I think he is. It's highly unlikely he goes. It would have to be a blockbuster of epic proportions. And I know San Diego's been linked. He's been linked to San Diego. And maybe San Diego uses Josh Hader as a piece. Maybe he doesn't even stay in San Diego if they're going to get a generational talent like Juan Soto. I mean, good Lord, if he goes to the freaking Dodgers, like, let's just pack up our things now and hand everybody else parting gifts. Like, you put Juan Soto on this roster, like, it's done. It's absolutely done. Like, I mean, you have to play the games and never, anything can happen. But Shohei's going nowhere. But Wilson Contreras, I think he's on the move.
And was the one who cried during the game at one time? With the Mets?
No, that was Wilmer Flores, I believe.
Oh, same name, whatever.
But I think Wilson Contreras, a team would be lucky to get him right now, and I think a couple teams like the Mets, maybe even the Rays. I would say the Astros, but they picked up Christian Vasquez. So maybe the Mariners. Those are a couple teams I think that Wilson Contreras looks like he might end up on. But he's the one of these three that I think is definitely getting moved. I think the one that's 50-50 is probably Juan Soto, and I think Shohei is going nowhere.
Ooh.